Next on Environment Long Island, dark sky. Welcome to Environment Long Island. I am Karl Grossman. The subject, dark sky, with Susan Harder. She is the New York representative of the Dark Sky Association. It's a national group, or is it an international group?
This is an international group now. Every continent, well, except Antarctica, we have representatives who are working on protecting the night sky.
Now, Susan is a resident of the Springs and East Hampton. How'd you get into this?
Well, I got into it because I was lying in bed one night and I looked up and my entire room was filled with light. And I thought that was a little strange because I like to sleep in the dark, as do people. And I noticed that my neighbor who was next door, her floodlight was illuminating not just her property, but mine and also into my house. So I checked out the local ordinance and it said that the source of illumination shall not be visible across property lines. But at that time, the code enforcement officer thought that it was too vague.
This is East Hampton town.
East Hampton, and this was 20 years ago. So I worked with our council members and we tightened it up. We made it more clear. So now when people have their houses lit up by their neighbors, we do have an ordinance that can deal with it. And the code enforcement said it's the easiest code for them to enforce. Because once you point it out to the neighbor that they can re-aim or shield their light, then it can take care of the problem. And all new lighting does conform with the outdoor lighting code of East Hampton. But Southampton has one now, Southold, Sag Harbor, Shelter Island, Islip, Brookhaven, it's
And you've
spreading.
been the crusader, Susan, from being woken up by light.
Yes.
You went on it's been now years ago, from town to town.
Yep.
Even trying to influence the folks in New York City who run the city.
Well, and in some cases we've had some progress there. But it's usually when we approach a corporation and we meet with their people and talk to them about how it saves money to use light sensibly, and it also makes them better neighbors, which they want to be, because New York, everybody's very close together. But on the municipal level, we have not had very much success. And I just wanted to point out to people, I brought some globes, and this shows the world, and this shows the night sky. When we protect the night sky from light that's going up instead of down, we also protect the planet because we're using less electricity, which is generated by burning coal. So the lights at night that you see on that big map, they're able to measure how much light is hitting the satellites. And we're wasting a tremendous amount of electricity, sending light up. So our organization works with municipalities and civic groups to explain, the better lighting choices to conserve electricity and save the planet.
Incidentally, electricity is also generated by oil and by gas and nuclear power. All of them, frankly, stink.
Yeah.
Beyond the issue of waste of electricity, why is a dark sky important?
Well, it impacts not just the night sky, which is how it started. It started with astronomers wanting to protect the night sky. But now people have come on board. The Audubon Society, because lights that hit buildings, birds will crash into the buildings and towers. We have the health professionals, because light at night has now been classified as a carcinogen. It's very important for people to sleep in a very dark bedroom at night because it affects your melatonin production. And also it affects our ecology. Most of the creatures on the planet are nocturnal. So when there was a study done, the ecological consequences of night lighting, and a book was published, and they found that every creature that they studied was affected negatively by night lighting. And also our trees. I have a photograph of a tree that's in Amagansett that shows that when the tree was lit up all night and all winter by a street light, it hangs on to its leaves too far into the winter when it should be going into dormancy, and this causes dieback of the tree. So it really does affect every creature on the planet. And as a result, we can see the stars in the sky when we use night lighting sensibly. And the way that we do that is by specifying shielded lighting that sends all the light, down and in the correct amount. And then also there's controls to shut the lights off when we don't need them.
Now, I have an article here. It was a big full page. I mean, this is the printout from the computer online. Why is New York City's skyline always lit up? And it was this full page of the New York City skyline. The lights are dazzling. This is the lead of the story, but there are several other practical reasons that they stay on all night long. And you read these so-called practical reasons, you got to wonder, what do you think of, I mean, I could name some of, I can cite some of these so-called reasons. People love the view, of a
That's
lit
true.
skyline.
People do love lights.
Yeah, some lights are required to help keep aircraft from crashing. And then the story nicely gets into some of the issues that because the skyline is all lit up in the city, there are 230,000 birds in the city every year are killed.
Yes.
A lot of birds because of collisions with these lit buildings, and this is according to the New York City Audubon. There was a bill, evidently, in the city. Donovan Richards, a councilman from Queens.
Yep.
He's been trying to dial back. The bill languished with opponents, including real estate leaders, saying the dim lights would protect public safety. You've had such success on Long Island.
I spoke at that hearing, as did a whole bunch of civic leaders and environmentalists and the Audubon, and the bill did not go anywhere. The real estate industry is very powerful, and there really was only one person who spoke against the law, but apparently that was enough. And this was a law that was the exact copy of a law that was passed in Paris. So that unnecessary lighting, now we're not talking about, when people are walking around and, and you do need lights for aircraft. Anything over 200 feet generally needs to have an aircraft light. But we were talking about lights that are completely unnecessary, shutting them off. And there is quite a bit of lighting in New York City that is shut off in the middle of the night. The view that I have from the apartment, I can see about 5 or 6 different, bridges. And in the middle of the night, they shut off those, string lights that are on.
This is your apartment in Brooklyn.
Yeah, they shut off the lights on. So, there's a certain amount, but we are lacking legislation in Manhattan. We're very fortunate we have well-written, enforceable laws here on Long Island because, we could lose what we have so easily. And, there's every reason to protect the night sky because we protect the ground and we protect our health. And we protect the birds and we protect the fireflies. Did you see the article in the Times? I have an image of fireflies because they were talking about fireflies get confused and they can't mate. So we're seeing a decimation. Now, who doesn't love fireflies?
Yeah. And this is because of
Yes, because of all the ambient light.
It started off the dark sky movement, I think it was in Tucson.
Yes.
And there was a lot of astronomers.
Yes, Tucson is surrounded by mountains on which are professional observatories. And those astronomers got together and spoke to the city fathers, and they enacted a law. When you are driving from the desert into Tucson, the lighting, it's all flat. It's not this huge dome, you know, sitting over Tucson. It's all flat because they have all these shielded lighting now.
So success in Tucson.
Yes.
Lack of success in New York, big success on Long Island. When you've approached officials in these various areas, your stress, human impacts, animal impacts, let's get some detail about
money. Because it's estimated that we could save 1/3 of our electric bill at night if we employed what we refer to as dark sky lighting principles, which are exactly the same as the Audubon Society. If you go to the Audubon or Bird Conservancy websites, they have recommendations for outdoor night lighting, exactly the same as what the dark sky people propose.
Let's expense the bucks.
Creatures, human health.
Okay, well, let's talk creatures. For birds, how does lit communities affect, well, particularly the traveling of birds?
Well, first of all, birds migrate at night because they need to conserve energy, and it's cooler at night. Now, they get confused if it's foggy and that they have towers that are all lit, you know, from above, or buildings that are lit from above. In fact, the World Trade Towers, before they were crashed into, the janitorial staff would have to go around and pick up the birds in the morning because there would be carcasses on the sidewalk. So what they did was they had just stopped illuminating the skin of that building, you know, before 9/11. So birds will circle till their death of communication towers, or I'm concerned about the wind farm out here, because if they have those flashing lights on top of them all the time, you know, the birds could conceivably, you know, fly around those in the fog. What they have now is they have a tower lighting instrument that will only be illuminated if a transponder from an airplane is in the vicinity. So I'm hopeful that they'll use that instead of, it's been approved by the FAA.
Yeah, I spoke to some people, I did a TV show on the wind farm proposed off Long Island, and what I was told in terms of bird hits was they had done studies, and most birds don't fly. You know, it's far, 30 miles out is not where most birds fly. It's mostly along the coast.
It's not in the migration route.
Yeah. Money, birds. Let's get to, I would think that what most people are concerned about, besides the aesthetics and the niceties of having a sky that you can see the stars in, would be human impacts. And you've gotten deep into the human impacts of...
Absolutely. This is the most important development for dark sky, which is when medical doctors who were doing research on cancer, and they showed that they had 2 different rooms with, you know, their host, what they call host mice, where they're basically dead, but they run human blood through them. They had one room where they were developing cancer, where the cancer was growing, and another room where it wasn't. And the only variable was light was coming into that room. So light at night shuts off your melatonin. Melatonin is a tumor suppressant. So it's critically important for people to sleep in the dark. Another important component is this blue light from LEDs. This is another major development, which is, well, I'll start with the stars. Our sky is blue. It's actually black. It's blue because blue light waves are very short and they scatter more. So we don't want a lot of, you know, blue light being emitted at night for the dark sky. But then the medical doctors are showing that blue light has 2 impacts. Number 1, it impacts the health of your eyes. It contributes to macular degeneration. That's why they're recommending having a filter on your iPhones, or not watching TV or looking at your iPads at night, because there's a lot of blue in those, and it affects your sleep patterns. Your circadian rhythms are completely thrown off if you're looking at a blue screen within 2 hours of sleep. So there's a very regenerative process that goes on in your body at night that you're not getting. So if light is coming in your window from, a street light that's in that bluish LED, which you know because you know what it's like to have those blue headlights coming at you. When those blue headlights are coming at you, I mean, aren't you squinting, and it kind of hurts? And then you can't see very well after you've passed them. It's because your eye will shut down tighter in the presence of blue light. So you're not seeing as well at night. So we recommend, for example, with street lights, we're recommending lower Kelvin. And Kelvin is a measurement of, how much blue and how much red. So we're trying to get people to use lower Kelvin light bulbs and street lights. They have street lights now that are 1800 Kelvin, and I'm trying to recommend those for East Hampton, because East Hampton is considering switching all the street lights to LEDs. In Southampton, they switched out the street lights for high Kelvin LED, and I think it's interfering with night vision, because you can see better at night with more yellow and more, more red, less blue headlights on cars and on streetlights.
It seems to me to be an issue that health officials should be concerned about, and certainly environmental officials should be concerned about. I mean, not just public works folks who are putting up lights.
Yeah.
Is there real, regulatory authority here? Is there real supervision by people who would be concerned about human health and the survival of birds and other wildlife?
Well, it's creeping in, but there's very powerful forces that are not doing it deliberately. I mean, people aren't deliberately trying to kill birds, and create cancer, but it's what we've done in the past. Changing what we've done in the past requires proof that you need to do it differently. There was no proof initially to use, higher Kelvin or, because LEDs came on the scene and everybody just got them. They were 5,000 and 6,000 Kelvin. So we had to show them you need to have lower Kelvin.
Okay, Kelvin, maybe I should explain what does Kelvin
is, okay, if you see spectrum, and I have a slide, if you have spectrum, and you break it down. When you had a prism and you were in grade school and you showed the prism with the sunlight, every color came out in equal proportion. Artificial light is not like sunlight. It's heavy in certain spectrum. So LEDs that are high Kelvin are very blue in the spectrum. Lower Kelvin, you're going to get more of an orange, more of an incandescent. We all know what incandescent bulbs look like. Mm-hmm. They're very warm. It's considered warm light. So we need to avoid that cool light from LEDs.
LEDs have been pushed in recent years because of energy efficiency,
Yes.
But frankly, until I've sat with you now, I've not heard about this issue of
Kelvin
and blue lights.
It's on the package. The next time you go to the hardware store to buy a light bulb, look at the package. And it will show you, some of them will actually show you the spectrum. And you can see that it's more orange, more yellow, or it's more blue. So you want to get a 2300, 2700 Kelvin at the most. Because otherwise, you're disrupting your circadian rhythms, you're hurting your eyes, and also you're creating sort of an overly cool, bluish environment, which is, unpleasant.
Wow. The International Dark Sky Association, of which you're the New York representative, how can people get involved? I mean, people listening to you now might think, one, I want to get involved, and two, I want to do something in my community. How can they do both?
Well, I think what we do is we start at home. And you can go to your property line, take a look and see if your own lights are intruding on your neighbor. Because most people they just don't know, because electricians just put things in. So first deal with your own house. And second of all, you can read up on this. And also on the website, the Dark Sky Society, which I helped write, there's some very useful documents. For example, how to speak to your neighbor that has a light that's intruding on you. You know, because for the most part, you can do this between neighbors. But we do have a law to back it up. We have a carrot and a stick, you know, in most towns that have outdoor lighting codes. I think that it always helps whenever you see a public official is to let them know that this, among other things, is one of your issues that you're interested in. You can join Audubon Society. You can join Sierra Club. Sierra Club is very prominently involved in dark skies. In fact, they gave me a nice award, you know, for my work, Long Island. You can also go to the website for the International Dark Sky Association. You can contribute because we use that money for research and to host conferences where we invite decision makers to come to our conferences, hear what we have to say, and then we work with them to enact whatever regulations or legislation that they find would be helpful for their community.
Again, towns have, let me find the clip right here. This is a piece from, this is a serious piece. This is from Scientific American.
Yes.
A very prominent scientific magazine. This is 2 years old. Mm-hmm. The End of Night. That's the headline, The End of Night. Artificial light is often seen as a sign of progress. The march of civilization shines a light in the dark. It takes back the night it illuminates, but a chorus of scientists and advocates, of which you're a leader, argues that unnaturally bright nights are bad, not just for astronomers, but also for nocturnal animals and even for what you've been discussing, human health. But here's what concerns me, the next paragraph. Research shows the night is getting even brighter. From 2012 to 2016, the Earth's artificially lit area expanded by an estimated 2.2% a year. And you multiply that by 10 or 20, you're talking about...
The whole planet.
Yeah, I mean, but what you're talking about is kind of a sort of a cosmic issue. You know, you're talking about looking up and seeing the Milky Way, looking up and seeing the sky, and then you got...
Well, we would lose so much when we can't see the stars in the sky, because this is our place in the universe. And how else are we going to experience it? You know, people who come out here from New York, they are astonished when they see the stars that are out here on the tip of Long Island. I want them to know there's a reason we can see them, because our council people have been able to help protect the night sky. It's just, you know, it's a simple thing. You know, cleaning up air and water pollution, very complicated, very costly. But this one, where we can clean up light pollution, which is the term we give, we could actually deal with this in our lifetimes. And I'll give you some good news. One of the things that the International Dark Sky Association does is they help specific areas that are already very dark and and want to be protected. You know, it's a concern of that particular area. And they're called dark sky places. And these are going to be protected in perpetuity from intrusive night lighting. Now, these are not areas where people are living. These are not areas where, you know, these are protected areas that have decided to put a special mantle that they would be left as an open, protected space so that they could also protect the night sky.
The Dark Sky Association's website, I mean, we have to leave people with information about places where they can go and can get information. What is the website?
Well, if they go to darkskysociety.org, that will give them some basic information. And there's a link to the International Dark Sky Association, which they can join, because I'd love to have members from this community. And again, like I said, it's a nonprofit and tax deductible. And we do have wonderful conferences if people want to come and meet other like-minded people. And the doctors come and speak about their research, and the bird people come and talk about their progress. civic leaders come and talk about what they've done, and all the advocates come to get energized and hear about new projects that people are doing. Because this is all very local. You know, we don't have a national law. We're not even close to it. But we do have state-by-state laws. New York State itself, I helped work on a law that's been enacted for New York State.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes, for all the, but it got melted down. But it is at a point where new state, anything that's paid for by the state has to be fully shielded. So that's a law that we do have in New York State. But we don't have a street lighting ordinance. We don't have any other type of ordinance.
Who is doing the manipulation up in Albany to prevent?
Well, again, it's more intransigence than it is somebody actively trying to prevent it. I'll tell you though, companies that burn coal, they want to keep those things fired up 24 hours a day.
Power plants, wow.
Exactly. So they want to stay at peak and not over during the day. But at night, you know, people are not using as much electricity. So they would like to waste electricity at night. And power companies were responsible for putting in street lights. In fact, putting in street lights where we don't even need them.
Wow.
So, and those are left on, you know, all night long, and of course, you know, our municipal taxpayers are paying for that. But they would like to waste electricity at night. So they do argue against night lighting laws.
Those power plant operators, they're not only causing climate change and the ones who are using nuclear causing radioactivity to be dispersed, they're also a factor here in causing dark skies not to be dark. Wow. You've been watching Environment Long Island with Susan Harder, a campaigner for many years for the dark sky. I'm Karl Grossman. Thanks for watching Environment Long Island.